Welcome to the 10th edition of the Astute Engineer. Got a really interesting one today. So Monday morning, bright and early, straight in with Andy, because I won't call you Andrew because I've just found out you feel like your mother's telling you off. Andy Wardle, you are incredible, the journey you've been on. We'll go into your history in a moment, but you personally are now running one of the key aspects of Astute Electronics and the group. How's it feel being GM of Copper and Optic?
When you put it like that, quite nerve-inducing. But yes, no, it's been a bit of a learning curve, I have to admit. But I'm getting there, and I'm confident in the future. I'm excited now. I'm getting excited about it all.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You should be excited, and you should also realise you've earned the right. Okay. If you look back over your career, and let's go back. So you've been at Copper and Optic, man and boy.
Yeah. I started 17 years old in August 2002. Basically, just joined up, waiting to find something a little bit better, passing time in, a little bit of spare money, working in the stores, booking in. And I've pretty much done every role throughout, including a little bit of the production. That's probably the one I've done least of. But yeah, I've done every other role throughout the business quite extensively.
I know, and it's amazing. It's such a great success story. The fact that you've gone in there as a boy, looking after the stores, looking at that, the control element you put into a stores and what you learn actually is maybe going to help you as you move forward about controlling production. But how did you make the shift? Because you was in the stores, you then went into project engineering.
Yeah. So what happened was I'd been in sort of 6-7 years or so, and basically I felt like I'd done everything I could do at that point. I'd gained this sort of holistic view of the business, how things interacted, which is what stores was great for, and I felt like I needed a new challenge. And then a role actually came up in a more technical aspect of inspection, and I worked in inspection for a couple of years, and then the engineering role came up, and I'd sort of proved myself capable of doing the technical side of things at that point. And at that point, I just wanted something new, something different for me to advance, because I like to be challenged.
It's interesting. I've got a few friends I've known through the industry for years who have gone from that stores, that material control into a project manager role
Yeah.
or procurement. That shift into engineering, what was the biggest challenge then?
It's difficult to say. I suppose the customer element of it, the customer facing element of it, because I'd largely been taken away from that up until that stage. But that you find it a bit nerve wracking at first, but you soon get into it. And coming back from the stores and the inspection roles, which I did previously, you do gain that overall view of how things link and how the business comes together.
Yeah, and I guess it helps when you've got a good mentor, and Phil
Yeah,
has obviously helped you along the way.
he has. Yeah. Phil, he's a force of nature.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have to give credit as well. The management team on the whole, the original management team was 3 members, and that was Phil, Paul, and Julian. All of them have been absolutely incredible. But Phil, he's been like a mentor, and afterwards time, I mean, he's like extended family, if that makes sense.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, it's a long time to be working alongside someone.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So what core values did Phil stand by that you've actually taken forward now, and that's going to push you forward?
First and foremost is diligence.
Okay.
If you put the level of diligence into your role on a daily basis, and you follow the procedures and the policies of the business, then you're not going to go far wrong. You know, it's the effort, the work ethic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, nobody can doubt Phil's work ethic.
Oh, absolutely not. No. I mean, he's very unique there, and I can see why you've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, and I'm sure he'll keep being your mentor and supporting you through.
I certainly hope so.
So, how do you see, the engineering role that you've gone through, and there's been a lot of changes over the last 10 years, and in fact, the last 10 days since we've been back from work after Christmas.
Yeah, it has.
AI is everywhere. How do you see AI helping copper and optic, but actually helping an engineer?
There's certain elements of the AI which are going to be great for us in terms of like speeding up processes that we have existing.
Yep.
Um, that's going to be one of the key elements for us. I feel myself personally that a lot of the AI out there isn't quite developed enough yet to replace people of that ilk, and that's not really somewhere where I'd want to be looking at right now.
Hmm.
But in terms of helping to speed up processes and the common process flows, then certainly that's going to be a key area that will help us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing we all need to do is realize the human element exists and it
Yeah,
does for a reason. It's not going to
exactly.
replace
Yeah,
what we are, but it can make us way smarter and
yeah,
more efficient. And those workflows, I think, will help everyone in industry. But the engineering challenges that you guys face are quite unique as well.
yeah.
In a cable assembly world, what's some of the biggest challenges you faced recently?
I think compliance is a big challenge.
Okay.
There's a lot of compliance which affects us directly in terms of like things like reach and Moss and stuff like that. They are difficult in some ways to to basically track, maintain, and ensure that you're fully up to date with. Um, However, we do see the purpose of them, and we do implement controls around them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But when you talk about compliance as well, I guess all of your engineering team are all certified. They're all very well experienced.
yeah. We have a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience in that team. People from engineering backgrounds from some of the biggest names.
Okay. I mean, I've seen some of your complex cable looms, and they're
Yeah,
complex,
they are.
like a
Yeah,
bowl of spaghetti, to be honest.
yeah.
But you need to have a completely different way of thinking. So, are there any tools that you guys can use that will help you?
In terms of
Just in terms of dealing with that engineering challenge, or is it all through using that knowledge, doing workshops,
yeah,
using the experience?
I mean, education's key. It's always going to be key in that element of it. Um, I suppose some things which will help us is trying to flow back what we do to the customers. Once we get aligned with the customer in terms of expectations, then things flow a lot smoother for a
Mm.
lot of people.
Yeah, and I think again, I think Phil highlighted that quite clearly to me. That customer relationship is so
Yeah,
critical.
it is. Yeah.
Um, so where do you see Copper and Optic going now? Then, I mean, now you're part of the wider Astute group. Where does that add benefit for you?
Well, with the likes of Astute, the backing of a company such as Astute, and the reach which we've now got, I I would like to see Copper and Optic become one of the big names, one of the go-to names in the industry for this type of harness assembly, especially because there's no reason why we can't be.
Yeah,
We have the
absolutely.
knowledge, we have the experience, and we have the skill sets to do it.
Um, I mean, I'm quite excited about what's being developed with the fibre.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit more where you see that going.
Well, I mean, I've used this tagline quite a bit, but we're living in a data-driven world, and the data usage nowadays is quickly going to outgrow the traditional copper platforms. So, fibre optics is going to be the future. Unfortunately, one of the parts of the Shoot acquisition has been they've put thought into this, they've put the people in place around us, the support network around us, and the investment from Astute as well in terms of setting up a new state of the art fibre optic centre at Copper and Optic is going to help us greatly.
Right. Let's touch on that then. State of the art fibre optic centre. What does that mean to somebody who has no idea what that fibre optics means? So what does that look like to you?
Of course, on a business level, it means much greater efficiency, much tighter controls, much better performance from the assemblies. What it'll also mean for the customer, essentially, is they'll get the highest grade possible fibre optic assemblies on the market.
Okay. And what about your time to market? Is it going to be difficult for you guys to get up to speed, or have you got things in place?
The plans are already there.
Right.
Again, backed very much by Astute and the personnel which the support around it is that we're going to be holding quite significant stock packages of the most common types of components such as having Kato 1 and mil spec and the harsh environment fibre optic cables, and that's going to allow us to give quick turnaround on these kind of assemblies.
So what you're going to aim doing sort of MPI build, or is it more long-term production? What's you thinking?
I would hope that we would get long-term production. That would be my target. We would get consistent long-term orders, where we could basically just repeat, and keep. But we do build low volume production as well, and there's certainly things which we want to continue pursuing in that area.
Well, we'll get the marketing team mobilised for you.
Yeah.
See what we can start to generate.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your early career, and as you've changed from your material control, looking after the stores, understanding that from end to end, and I guess as the business has grown, you've got into your project engineering.
Yeah.
You then started managing engineering. So
Yeah.
how do you... Management is difficult at the best of times. Management of engineers and projects, how did that work for you?
I'm not going to lie, I did find it difficult at first.
Okay.
It was a step up that I didn't really fully appreciate until I did it. However, it has helped that I've had such a great team behind me. The engineering team, have been absolutely brilliant. They've been supportive, and we have very much an open policy. So if there was ever a case where maybe I was veering in an incorrect direction, there was an open discussion to be had. And along those lines as well, it's helped to bring me into this position where I am now. You know, I've continued to develop and build me knowledge sets with it.
Yeah, and that's it. You keep learning.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, when you actually look, engineers and teams are always a challenge. You've got those different nuances. But what makes an engineering team special? What do you think makes them stand out?
To me, the one thing which I've always asked from them is commitment. You know, obviously you have to have a technical knowledge, and you have to be able to have a methodical way of working.
Mm-hmm.
But if that team has commitment, they'll be groundbreaking.
Yep. Yeah, attitude is everything.
It is, yeah.
If you've got the right attitude, you can train people. So how did you learn those engineering skills and those management skills? What was your go-to?
Well, for the engineering skills, it might sound peculiar to say, but many years ago, when I very first started, probably a few months after I started, it all started then for me. And I remember I was filing some paperwork, and Phil, it goes back to Phil, he was just standing in the office, and he opened up a drawer and he said, "Have you ever seen one of these?" And at that point I hadn't, and he went through the basics. From that point, I was always curious how these things go together, how it comes into a final assembly, and then I started helping out by doing bits and bobs. So that sort of satisfied my technical side of things. In terms of the personal element and managing the team, I've always seen the teams which I've been in as being friends or I don't quite know how to put it, but we've always been close.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so moving into the management role that was another difficult element for me. But again, a lot of it, I have to thank them for a lot of it.
Yeah, you have to find that balance, don't you?
Yeah.
It's a big challenge.
It's difficult to sort of step away and put yourself in that different role sometimes.
Oh yeah, especially when you've got to deal with Gen Z. That's some of the biggest challenges. Yeah. So going back to the engineering side, because obviously this podcast is all about some of those engineering challenges. But when you're actually looking at a fixed assembly, you've got a customer's requirement. Mm-hmm. What happens when you come up against those lead time issues or an obsolescence issues? How do you do that workshop? How do you do that brainstorming to find an alternative?
Well, we're blessed with having engineers who are quite well skilled in doing all that. However, we will often confer on what the best route forward is, and what we always do is we always find an alternative first, and then we propose it to the customer. You know, we discuss it with the customer. We make sure that we're all in agreement that that's the best option forward. I mean, obsolescence and lead times at the moment are quite a factor in terms of a lot of things. Some of the big players in the market aren't as reliable as they once were, and it is something that we do on a daily basis. However, making sure that we are in line with the customer's requirements is crucial for it.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to your earlier point, that customer relationship, that communication point. I think you keep that sound and
Yeah,
you've got half a chance. So, so you've kind of gone through the system. You're now at the top of the tree. So you've got different challenges now. I mean,
I have.
commercially, how do you keep control of those cost elements and those on time? How are you going to manage that?
With daily conversations with the
Right,
with
okay.
accounts and with production. Again, I keep putting everything onto everyone else. I'm very blessed with the team that I've got around me. Essentially, I mean, it's my job now to look at things in a more strategic kind of manner and to make sure that those things are accounted for. I take advice with a lot of it, I have to admit. I mean, we have specialists in the accounts department, etc. Performance monitoring, KPIs, they're key in it. They are key in making sure that we're on target with everything.
Yeah, but I think what comes out loud and clear with you is that you respect, you admire, you appreciate all the people you got around you.
Oh yeah, obviously.
And building that team will help. They'll help drive you forward.
Yeah.
And I guess I've been up to the site. Very impressive how you've got things set up. You've got a lot of people who have invested into that business and been
Yeah.
there for a number of years as well.
Exactly.
How are you getting younger engineers or younger personnel involved in the business?
Recruitment has been a key factor, especially in terms of getting younger people in. It's been a blocker for a period of time. We're investing quite a lot at the moment in terms of developing training, like training courses, etc. That should be ready to launch quite soon. We're going to actively recruit for operators to undergo that. But yeah, that's where we're doing it in sort of like the base level entry points really for people.
Yeah, I think it's keen to create those pathways for the next generation because we're all getting older.
There's certainly a lot of skill sets which are being lost for that reason.
Well, exactly, especially in the UK and with what's going on, people trying to reshore activities, but you need that experience and knowledge, don't you? So what advice would you give to a young prospective engineer, operator coming on board, apart from come and join us quickly? What would be your advice?
Just be keen. Show that you want it. Have a hunger for it. If you haven't got a hunger for it, then you're not going to make waves.
I don't disagree. I agree with you totally. And I think it's easy to stand out if you've got that right attitude. But you still need to convince some of the youngsters about having that attitude when they look around and they see the Instagram millionaires. So how do you encourage them that, the hard graft now is going to pay off in time?
That is certainly the $1 million question.
That really but that's why I'm asking you, because if you got the answer, we can actually make a lot of money off this podcast.
I'm sure. It's it's a very difficult question to answer straight off the cuff, that one.
We'll come back to you on podcast 21.
Yeah. Okay? Give me some time to write that down.
So, we try to do a bit of reflection as well on this, and you've managed to get yourself into a great position over the last 25 odd years, and that's a true testament of what you've invested into the company. What would you have changed along the way, or what advice would you have given yourself, Andy, 20 years ago?
Well, it's hard to tell you what would change because I've loved my journey so much.
Okay.
Throughout it, the people I've met along the way have been fantastic. Again, back to Phil, Julie, etc. They've all been amazing with me. I couldn't have chosen a better place to work. If I was going to go back now, I probably would have tried to push earlier.
Okay.
For the type of work which I was doing, which engineering, going to engineering or technical role a few years earlier than what I did. But again, I wouldn't change anything from being where I am now.
It's a nice attitude to have. I mean, sometimes things happen for a reason. Yeah, I sometimes ask myself what I would have done different 30 years ago. And you get to this point of time because of all the mistakes you've made along the way as well. But okay, so what do you do outside of the copper and optic world?
I'm very much family oriented.
No, that comes across clear.
Yeah, I have 3 young children who basically,
So you don't
as
sleep?
everyone says, no. To be fair, we're very lucky in that respect. All of our children sleep quite well.
Right.
But every parent says it, the army world, and that's exactly where I focus most of my energy into. Outside work, I mean, I enjoy football. I support Port Vale, which probably shouldn't name teams on
Well,
here.
you shouldn't. I'm definitely not going to talk about who I support at the moment, so we'll keep that one quiet.
I don't think I should really, considering where we are now. But yeah, football and socialising, but my family, I spend most of my time with my kids outside of work.
That's good. It's good values to have. It is good values. So where do you, 3 years out, where do you see the business developing? What would be your ideal?
I would like to there are some key targets in terms of where we're going now. We want to expand, we want to grow, quite significantly in that time period. I would like to be looking at some more environmentally friendly options like paperless shop floors and stuff like that. That's key for what I'd like to be in terms of the business. But I mean, my role right now is to make sure that we get that growth and we basically make it sustainable.
I think you've got the foundations in place. You've made it very clear about that team structure and getting the right attitude, which you keep building on that.
Yeah.
I have no doubt you will continue to be successful. We'll get the marketing team trying to create some activity, but normally close off with a book that's inspired you or a podcast or something. What stands out for you over your career?
Wow. I mean, if I was to pick a book of sorts, I mean, I was always inspired. I've always been inspired by sports persons. I mean, the George Best book. I mean, obviously, the George Best ending wasn't the most favourable. However,
what stood out for you from that book then, or from George Best's career?
From his background and where he came from, he managed to make it to the peak. He started out with nothing, and he managed to make it to the peak of his game as such. And I'm always inspired by that. There's many sports people which you could say about, but
I look, George Best was an amazing player, and you're right. He came from nothing, came from the streets of Ireland to be one of the most impressive players,
exactly,
on and off the pitch.
Yeah, for very different reasons.
but I also think that talks a lot about your character. That someone's come from nothing can actually work their way to the peak of their sport and their environment.
Yeah, I mean, certainly wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I have to say, and to be where I am now, I do feel honoured. I feel blessed as well that I've been given some of the opportunities I have throughout my life. Because if I'd have chosen other routes, then I possibly wouldn't be sat where I am now.
I'm sorry about this room, but but no, absolutely. Look, you've earned the right to sit where you are, and I think it's clear your values are sound and they align to Astute and what Jeff and Phil, I guess, from early discussions was because we do have similar values.
Yeah.
I think you built a foundation to be successful, and we'll help you as much as we can. But testament to your commitment and your hard work to get where you are. So you should be proud of that.
No, thank you.
Well, the podcast, we keep trying to push the values of engineering. I think, listening to Andy, that your journey doesn't start and finish in a straight line. So thanks for listening. If anyone has any requests, we've got a couple of interesting ones coming up over the next couple of months. Follow us on socials. Thanks very much.